In this Jedi Survivor video, I will be ranking all of the boss battles from worst to best. Before we do get into this video though, make sure you do subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any future news updates or tips and tricks for this game. So Jedi Survivor's story has 17 boss battles that you must face before you complete the game. I'm not going to be including all of the optional boss battles that you can come up against when you're exploring the world, just the 17 that you must face to complete the game. I also want to offer some context behind my rankings. So I played the game around 2 weeks before it came out, and I was rushing to get the game completed so I could actually review it for you. That's why I did rush through the game as quickly as possible, so I did skip most of the optional side content and just focused on the main boss battles. As for the difficulty setting I played on Jedi Knight from start to finish. This could go without saying, but of course this video is going to contain spoilers as I'll be covering every single boss from the game. The game has been out for a month now, so that's why I'm making this video. So let's get started with the worst boss battle. I mean, it's not bad, but it just so happens to be a standard boss battle, a very simple one, and it's the very first one you get in the game, and it's against K405. So you're going through one of those gaps, and then K205 just pulls you out and slams you to the ground. He's actually a little bit more difficult than you would think when you're playing against him, and it's a good way to introduce companions for boss fights, because that is something that is definitely underrated in my opinion. Zeke is next up, and I have to say, he's just so easy, isn't he? It's not really much of a challenge. Just hitting him with a lightsaber deals so much damage. He's no challenge, even on Jedi Knight. When he has no stamina, then he's easily going to be killed. Next up, we have Courage Lim, and I have to say, this was a really nice location to fight in, but the encounter just felt too similar to the previous bounty hunters in the first game. So I didn't care too much about it. I thought, oh, it's just one of those random encounters. Little did I know, it sets up a whole side quest line, which was better in story than actual encounters, but so that's why I'm putting it down here. They're more difficult to take out than you think, but it's still not that fun. The ATST fight takes place in a stunning location. It's very different to the one that we got in Fallen Order. I love it. And the ATST is actually able to destroy the various rock structures, so I do like that bit of destruction. It just adds more immersion to this fight. However, the ATST was annoying to fight in my opinion. Like, it just shot a lot and it got annoying, but still, it was fine, and it did have a cool ending where you throw out the driver. Urgost Fist of Ravers was kind of annoying boss battle to me, because you're in this tight space, you don't have much room to get around in, and his hammer just deals so much damage. It was more difficult than I expected, and I do think I probably experienced more difficulty because I had the blaster stance equipped, and I wasn't really investing my skill points into force abilities much. I specifically invested them in the blaster and crossguard stance so I could get a good feel of those for gameplay and such for my review. In Jedi Fallen Order, there were quite a few big creature battles, but in this game, the only main boss battle that's a creature is the Skeleton Scorpion, and it was way more difficult than I expected. I completely underestimated its size because it's very difficult. Using Merrin to hold it down though was fun, and it was a nice change of pace because it wasn't a humanoid character, but nevertheless it's not one that I had fun in doing so much. Take Luesh is up next, and he has some real cringe lines that are delivered in a cringe way. It was fun to fight against a lightsaber wielder that doesn't have the force, but literally offered nothing else, to be honest. I mean, his grappling hook was an interesting addition, but that's basically it. It was in a cool location. He was a very easy doorstop before you make your way through to the room and continue with the story. The Ninth Sister returned in this game following her defeat in Fallen Order, just like many people assumed she would come back, and things have changed. Cal is far more stronger, so right at the start of the game, you're able to defeat her pretty easily, but I did like seeing her back. It was a good duel, I think. It made a lot of sense story-wise, it set things up, it just worked well. It was a different enough duel this time round compared to the first game, so I liked that. It wasn't just more of the same. The reprogrammed Magna Guard was a fun fight. He had this really cool entrance, and when you take off his head, he's still going. It's just pretty good. It made fighting the other Magna Guards in the game, though, just less as interesting because they weren't bosses, and you got to take out the main strong one. That was pretty damn cool. He had some really great moves, and it was a lot of fun fighting an actual combat droid versus, say, like a K-series unit. The next boss battle I'll be going over is the first installment in the trilogy against Dagon Gera, and I have to say, it was a surprise to fight him so early on, but it was fun. It was a nice introduction to him, but I felt like his AI was a bit dumb at times, like he was very slow. I know he's just been in the back tank for a few hundred years, but that's not the point. It just felt a bit dumb, like he was just slowly strolling around and would let me easily hit him. His simplistic attacks do foreshadow how his future battles will go because he just only gets better. Dryethorn, despite not being a Force user, had a lot at their disposal. A crossguard lightsaber, grenades, a blaster, and cloaking. It just was a really cool combination of features. This one just offered a great variety of gameplay, and it was a challenge because you had to contend with so much and use what you've learned so far to put it all together to defeat them. Maybe it was just me, but I feel like the cloaking was far too easy to see. I would have liked if it was even harder to see. Dryer was just running around and not really attacking me, even when they had the cloak, so I don't know. Strange to me, but I did feel like it could have been a little bit harder, but the variety was interesting. Then we have the sequel to Dagon Gera's first fight, and this one was just a very simplistic location, just a simple, round, circular metal base arena, and it focused on pure lightsaber combat pretty much. There was some Force usage going on, but for the most part I liked it how it was just two Jedi going toe-to-toe against each other, and showcased what was good about this lightsaber combat. He was difficult, he had some great attacks, so it took me a few attempts, but for the most part it wasn't a huge challenge, and the future boss battles just get even harder. Except for this one, Rick, the door technician. I know, I had to put him in 5th place because the humour of it just carries him. That's all what's needed. You can toy with him, you can slaughter him, or you can just skip him. This is the only boss battle that you can actually skip in the mainline story. That's right, you can just go straight through and ignore him, or you can just drop him over the edge like I did. Bit cruel, I know. Rayviz was another awesome boss with an arsenal at his disposal. It took me several attempts, but it was easier than I thought it would be. I expected him to be one of the last, if not the last boss battle of this game going into this game, because he is a Gendai after all. But to be honest, he was a surprise because I was able to defeat him earlier than I thought, because it happens earlier in the story, and once you find out his moveset and figure it out how to counter it, he becomes far easier to take out. You can get him down pretty quickly. I genuinely expected him to be far more close quarters based, but he has grenades that have some range, his blaster, and his flail as well. That was specifically a challenge. When he kicks it back, the speed of that kick, it became very hard to parry when I first were going up against him, but once you nail that down, you're going to be fine. That was what was taking all of my health away quickly. The various stages of this boss battle and the talking between the two was just great. Seeing him lose his armor and his body is holding him together, it's just really, really good. In the 3rd place of this ranking, I have the Darth Vader fight. I was actually afraid that Vader would return in this game and not deliver like in the first game. The first game made sense and was a great moment, but I'm like, how are they going to top it? Well, what they did is scale things back a little bit and still raise the stakes and made a fun boss battle. You got to play as Seer, which was awesome. The previous hour or so that you spent playing as Seer was great, and then you got to show your worth against Vader, and it felt completely different to the first game. The location is stunning, it's these Jedi Temple archives, there's some history here with Vader, and it just looked fantastic with the fire raining down, the destruction happening around. It just was such a centerpiece. It showed Vader being just a tank, slow but very strong and resilient. I really liked Vader throwing objects. I would have liked to have seen that more often. I also felt like when Vader pulled, he didn't strike you and deal damage. It was a very easy way out. It just wasn't very punishing in my opinion, but that's just me. This boss battle took quite a while to do, well over an hour. I'd always get to the third and final very end and then run out of stims. It was unfortunate. I was really like, I don't know if I can do this. I've got to get this review done. Am I going to reduce the difficulty? No, I spurred on and got it done, and it was awesome. The ending was pretty sad. The runner-up in this ranking is the finale in the trilogy of Dagon Gera, and it was an absolute, truly awesome spectacle. Bode gets to join in for a bit. The fight on the ceiling is just such a standout moment. Even the cutscene, which typically I'm more into the gameplay aspect, just the cutscene was phenomenal as the camera turns and there's the Force being used. It's just stunning. The very top of the observatory with the colours and such just looks amazing. The Force visions that Dagon has, where there are multiple of him, where it goes dark and you can only see his red lightsabers. The Force projectiles were annoying, but yeah, it just offered a really good balance of lightsaber combat, Force usage, as well as movement. It's just an all-round incredible fight that made up for the first one being quite simple, the second one being kind of simple again, and this one just showed Dagon's true dark side powers. That leaves us with just one boss battle left. The final boss battle in the game, the hardest boss battle in the game, and the best in my opinion. It was yet another incredible spectacle with various stages to it, and it just offers so much raw passion from both of them. A variety of combat as well. Let's just get straight into it. So Bode packs all of the variety of combat you face off against in this game into one package, making it difficult because you have to use everything that you've learned and also come up against and put it all together to make sure you don't lose this fight. The lightsaber with reverse grip, blaster gameplay, grenades and Force usage, including dark side stuff as well. It's just a true pinnacle of gameplay combat. Merrin is able to join in, which is great. I felt like that was pretty fitting for this part of the game. When Bode uses the Force to activate scripted events like this, Merrin is able to jump in and save you, stop you from falling. You can tell from the fighting, the voice lines, the cutscenes, and when there is hand-to-hand combat, just how much passion and how much it means to each of these guys. We got this truly tragic moment where Bode is literally beating Cal to death with punches. It's brutal. I did not expect to see anything like that in this game. And then you get the iconic moment where Bode is literally beating Cal to death, which I did not expect to see. It's so brutal. But you are able to go to a respawn screen and embrace darkness. That was another stroke of genius in this game, just like when you respawned as Seer. It's just so raw. It requires tactics as well. It's the hardest boss battle. It took me the longest to complete, and I did actually have to reduce the difficulty down to Jedi Padawan because I was like, I need to get this game completed so I could actually get my review out in time. So that's the only difficulty I changed. I probably would have completed it on Jedi Knight if I had more time, but I needed to get my review done. It required way more studying to take him out, in my opinion, compared to the others. So, for example, you need to use Merrin a lot to save you from taking damage at the start, and then make use of your dark side time slow ability when Bode has a lot of stamina, because he's really vulnerable when he doesn't have any stamina. But when he does have lots of stamina, then he's going to be very powerful. So that's when the best time was to use it. And I also noticed that if you died in the first stage, then another thing to take note of is that if you did die in the first stage of this boss battle, the health restore pickup would be there, and if you made your way through to the second stage, then you wouldn't be able to pick it back up because it's not in that location anymore. So the trick was to lose as little as health as possible using Merry in the first stage, die in the second stage, and then pick up that health restore the next time round. Or even in the third stage, which did tend to happen to me sometimes. More often than not, I found myself getting really close to defeating Bode at least 4 or 5 times in a row and getting so frustrated, but when you defeat him, it's worth it. It's just like, yeah, I did that. That was cool. It wasn't frustrating in a bad way, it was just frustrating because you know you're so close to doing it, and you know you can do it. Also the location, a dark Jedi temple, it just felt right. I would love to know your ranking, so let me know down in the comment section below, and remember to drop a like to help support the channel, subscribe so you don't miss any future Jedi Survivor videos from me, and if you did miss any of my previous videos, do click on the playlist on screen right now, and I shall see you in my next video. Goodbye.